Welcome to our programming channel. Today in ASP.NET we will see IsPostBack property with example. Before IsPostBack we will understand what is postback. This is the process in which submitting of an ASP.NET page and sending all the information from client to web server happens. Then web server process all those contents and returns back to the client. If we type ASP.NET and press enter, here we can see page is refreshing. Page is refreshing. Here request is sending to web server from client, and then web server process the information and sending back to client. So we get this result, and if we click on this hyperlink, here also page is refreshing and we get this result. We get this page because of postback. So this process is postback. Postback happens because of some controls. For example, button control. When we click on a button, at that time postback happens. Now we are going to see what is postback. This is a read-only Boolean property. This property detects if the page is getting generated due to postback requested by a control on the page, or if the page is getting loaded for the first time. Many operations such as getting data from a database or populating list items need to be performed only once at the first time when the page or control is loaded. There is no need to repeat the operation. By testing the value of each postback, we can avoid a repetition of adding items. IsPostBack is normally used on page load event. If we take one button, and if we see in browser, now if we click on this button, we can see here page is refreshing. So here the process of postback is happening. We take here two radio buttons. Text is male and text is female. Group name, gender. Group name for radio button 1 is gender, and group name for radio button 2 gender. Now if we see in browser, now if we click on this button, page is refreshing, and here if we select this radio button male, or if we select this radio button female, then there is no refreshing of page. Means only at the time of click event of this button, a refreshing or post back is happening. And here while selecting the radio buttons, refreshing or post back is not happening. Now we are taking drop down list control. Now in view code, here we are taking one method. Fill drop down. List item L1 is equal to new list item bus. Copy this line and paste. We have taken these list items: bus, car, railway, aeroplane. Drop down list one dot items dot add bus, and copy this line, paste, and add all these list items. We want this drop down to be filled when we click this button. Here we give the name submit, and ID btn submit, and double click on this. In the click event of this button, we are calling this method. If we run the project, now there is no any item in drop down list. If we click on this submit button, now the drop down list is filled with these 4 items. If we click again, now the items are filling again, and if we click again, then again the same items are repeating. So here drop down list 1 dot items dot clear. With this clear method, we can clear the drop down list before filling the items. If we run the project, if we click on submit button, the drop down list is filled. If we again click on the submit button and again click on the submit button, then we can see only 4 list items. Suppose we comment this line and we call this method in page load event. Now the method is not present in click event of the button. There may be different situation in projects. Sometimes after clicking the button, we want to show the drop down list with items. We have seen that situation. But sometimes we want to show the drop down list after loading the page. At that time, we need to call this method in page load event. So here we have called the method in page load event. And if we see, now there is no need to click this button for filling this drop down list. The drop down list is filled with items already. Suppose we click this button for other purpose. Here we can see the items are added. If we click again this button, then the items are adding. If we click again, now the items are repeating. Here now there is no any link between this fill drop down method and the click event of this button. But here, because of click event of this button, postback is happening. Controls like drop down list control use view state, and during page initialization, view state restoration happens. So the items are repeating. Now we are taking one text box here, and if we see, now drop down list has 4 items, and if we type anything here, and press enter. Now we can see here page was refreshing, and here now again items are adding. Now if we again press enter, page is refreshing and items are repeating. Still items are adding. So in this case also postback is happening. Now in this situation there is one way. Select this drop down list, and in properties here view state mode is inherit. We have to select this mode disabled. Now view state mode is disabled. If we see in browser, there are 4 items in drop down list. If we press enter, there are 4 items. And if we click on this button, now the postback is happening, but the items are not repeating. So this is one method. And also view state mode like previous inherit, or we say here enabled. View state mode is enabled now. If we are calling this method in page load event, here we can check the page is loading first time or page is loading after postback with is postback property. So here if is postback is equal to false, we don't want to fill this drop down list again and again. We want to fill this drop down list one time only, that is after the page loading. Because of any reason there is postback, at that time we don't want to fill this drop down list again. So here if is postback is equal to false, if is postback is equal to false, then call this method fill drop down. If we see, now if we press enter, postback is happening here, but there is no change in the list items. There are 4 items in drop down list, and even view state is enabled. View state is not disabled. And here if we click on this button, now also page is refreshing, means postback is happening. Here we can see there are only 4 items. This is the benefit of is postback property. This property is boolean property. We can check here only true or false. Or instead of is postback is equal to false, we can write here if not IsPostBack. If we see in browser, now also the items in the drop down list are not repeating. This property is present in page load event only, or we can write IsPostBack property in page load event only. Suppose if we try to write this property in the click event of the button, and if we see in browser, now the drop down list have no items, and if we click on the submit, items are not adding. And here also, if we press enter in the text box, items are not repeating, even items are not adding. So we can use this property only in the page load event. In design, here we are taking one label, visible false. Double click on this submit button. We have taken string variable rselect. Copy this, paste here, and radio button 2, and here female. If radio button 1 dot checked is equal to true, then rselect is equal to male. If radio button 2 dot checked is equal to true, rselect is equal to female. if we see in browser, travel through air, mail, and here aeroplane. Your mail travel through air by aeroplane, and if travel through road, select female, and here car, car or bus, here car, and click on submit button. Then you are female, travel through road by car. That's all for IsPostBack property in ASP.NET. In our channel, there are regular uploads of programming related videos. So for latest updates, please subscribe the channel and like and share videos. Thanks for watching.